Hey there, English learners. Welcome to the Casual English Podcast. I'm Jake.
And I'm Ashley. We're so excited you're here with us today.
Exactly. So if this is your first time listening, welcome. This podcast is all about helping English learners practice with real, natural conversations, the kind you'll actually hear native speakers having every day.
That's right. We don't use textbook English here. We talk the way we actually talk with our friends, our coworkers, people we meet in coffee shops. And today's topic is super important.
How to sound friendly in English without being weird. Ashley, I have to say, this is one of those things that even native speakers sometimes struggle with.
Oh my gosh, yes. There's this sweet spot, right? You want to be warm and approachable, but not, like you're trying too hard or like you're being fake.
Exactly. And for English learners, it's even trickier because every culture has different ideas about what sounds friendly. What feels normal in one language might sound too formal or too casual in English.
So today, we're going to break it down into three main areas. First, we'll talk about tone of voice, like how your voice actually sounds when you speak.
Then we'll dive into politeness, but not the stuffy, formal kind. We're talking about those little words and phrases that make you sound considerate without sounding like a robot.
And finally, casual versus formal speech, when to be more relaxed and when to step it up a notch. Plus, we'll give you tons of real examples that you can actually use.
All right, so let's start with tone of voice. Ashley, can you give us an example of what we mean when we say someone has a warm tone versus a cold tone?
How was your weekend? How was your weekend? It goes up a little at the end. There's more energy in your voice. Maybe you lean in slightly. It actually sounds like you want to hear the answer.
That's perfect. And you know what I've noticed? A lot of English learners speak too flat because they're concentrating so hard on getting the words right. But friendly English is actually pretty musical. It goes up and down.
Oh my God, yes. I remember when I was learning Spanish, my teacher told me I sounded like a robot because I was speaking so carefully. She was like, Ashley, you need to let your voice dance a little. And it's the same thing in English.
And there's another thing about tone, gentle versus harsh. Like, if you need to disagree with someone, you can say, I don't think so, in a gentle way that doesn't hurt their feelings, or you can say it harshly and make them feel bad.
Right. A gentle, I don't think so, sounds more like, I don't think so. It's softer, maybe a little questioning. But harsh would be like, I don't think so. It's sharp and final and kind of mean.
Perfect example. And that actually brings us to our next topic, politeness. Now, we're not talking about fancy, formal politeness. We're talking about the magic words that make everyday conversations feel friendly and considerate.
Yes. Okay. So the obvious ones are please and thank you. But here's the thing. It's not just about using them. It's about how and when you use them. Like, you don't need to say please for everything or you'll sound weird.
Exactly. Like if you're asking your friend to pass you the salt at dinner, you might just say, "Can you pass the salt?" But if you're asking your coworker to stay late to help with a project, then "Could you please help me with this?" sounds much better.
And then there's what we call softening language. Those little words and phrases that make requests sound less demanding. Instead of do this, you might say, could you maybe do this? Or would you mind doing this?
Oh, and I was wondering if is a great one. Instead of, can you send me that report, you say, I was wondering if you could send me that report. It's the same request, but it sounds so much friendlier and less pushy.
I love that one. You know, when I first started working in an office, I would just say things like, send me the file, because that's what seemed most direct and clear. But my manager pulled me aside and said I was coming across as rude. She taught me to say things like, could you send me that file when you get a chance? Or
would you mind sending me the file? And oh my gosh, what a difference! People started being so much nicer to me.
That's such a great example. And it brings us to our final point, knowing when to be casual versus formal. This is probably the trickiest part because it depends so much on the situation and the relationship.
Right. So with your best friend, you might say, "Hey, want to grab lunch?" But with your boss, it would be more like, "Would you like to get lunch together?" Or, "I was wondering if you'd like to have lunch."
Perfect. And here's a good rule of thumb. When in doubt, start slightly more formal and then adjust. It's much better to be a little too polite at first than to be too casual and offend someone.
Oh, that's so smart. Like, if you need someone to move their car, you could say, "Move your car." Super casual and kind of rude. Or, "Could you move your car?" Better. Or, "Excuse me, would you mind moving your car?" Very polite.
And you can adjust based on how people respond to you. If someone seems really friendly and relaxed, you can be a bit more casual. If they seem more serious or professional, stay more formal. Just pay attention to the vibe.
And here's something interesting. Americans tend to be pretty casual compared to some other cultures. Like, we'll call our professors by their first names or chat casually with our managers. But that's not rude here. It's actually seen as friendly.
That's such a good point. I remember my friend from Japan was shocked when I introduced him to my boss and said, "Hey Mike, this is my friend Takeshi." He expected me to say Mr. Johnson, but Mike was totally fine with just Mike.
I think the main thing to remember is that sounding friendly in English is about finding that balance. Warm but not fake. Polite but not stuffy. Casual but not rude. It takes practice, but you'll get the hang of it.
Absolutely. So let's quickly summarize what we covered today. First, tone of voice. Make your English musical, not flat. Let your voice go up and down naturally and keep it warm and gentle.
Second, politeness. Use those magic softening phrases like, "Could you maybe?" and "I was wondering if." They make your requests sound friendly instead of demanding.
And third, casual versus formal. When in doubt, start a little more formal and adjust based on the situation. Pay attention to how others are speaking and match their energy level.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today. Remember, sounding friendly is a skill, and like any skill, it gets better with practice. So go out there and try some of these techniques.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Even native speakers are still learning how to sound friendlier. We'll be back next episode with more practical English conversation tips.
Oh, and before we go, Jake, should we give them a quick practice exercise? Like something they can try this week?
Oh, that's a great idea. Okay, listeners, here's your homework. This week, try using "I was wondering if" at least 3 times. Maybe at work, maybe with friends, maybe even ordering coffee. Practice that softening language.
And practice your intonation. Stand in front of a mirror and say, "How was your day?" 5 different ways. Bored, excited, concerned, casual, and interested. You'll be amazed at how different it sounds.
Perfect exercise. And remember, you don't have to be perfect right away. Even we're still working on this stuff. The most important thing is that you're trying and improving bit by bit.
Exactly. And you know what? Native speakers love it when people make an effort to be friendly and polite. Even if your grammar isn't perfect, if you're warm and considerate, people will remember you positively.
So true. All right, everyone, that's a wrap for today. I'm Jake.
And I'm Ashley. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Keep practicing, keep being awesome, and we'll see you next time on the Casual English Podcast.
Until then, keep practicing your English, be kind to yourself, and remember, you're doing great.